By the way, if you missed the big announcement in our 8 o'clock hour, the MLB, Major League Baseball, is partnering with the Athletes Unlimited Softball League ahead of its inaugural season, which begins next weekend, I believe it is, in fact. That partnership is expected to be a big boost for the all-women's professional softball league, helping it to get a bigger audience and more fans in the stands, which is the goal. Fun fact, as we back up a little bit, softball, originally called indoor baseball.
Oh, wow.
And after World War II, after there was some concern about injuries from playing baseball, it sparked a surge in softball's popularity. Throwing overhand can cause some injuries after all. It was deemed a safer alternative to America's so-called favorite pastime, certainly mine. Fast forward to the 70s and Title IX legislation, that's when softball and baseball were deemed to be equivalent sports for schools receiving federal funding. This also meant schools were able to prevent women from joining a men's baseball team so long as softball was offered as an option. It's very lawyerly here. But that gave rise to it being considered, quote, a women's sport. Well, today, softball is one of the most popular sports in the U.S. for young girls and women. Someone who has been playing since she was very young is Kim Ang, the commissioner of the new Athletes Unlimited Softball League, or AUSL. She joins us now. Kim, it's so great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're also a big deal in baseball. So, but we didn't even mention that you're a big deal in baseball and all of that. So, but let's just put your baseball history to the side and talk about your future here with softball. Why are you excited to take on this role?
This is, first of all, women's professional softball has been on the come for a long time. Different iterations, but AUSL is the one that we believe is here to stay. For me, softball is a sport that I played as a child. We see participation going up and up, along with baseball over the last 5 years. Participation has gone up 27%. If you look at College World Series numbers for the women, in 24 over 23, viewership went up 24%.
Wow.
And you will see the Women's College World Series routinely viewer the Men's College World Series. So that's exciting.
I heard you mention that in the last hour of the show, and Gayle said, can you repeat that for us, please? Because that is a huge headline. Let's talk a bit about your incredible history at the MLB. You were the first woman general manager. You were the general manager of the Miami Marlins. You were a senior vice president at the MLB. What are you doing? How are you shifting now into this new role as commissioner? Are you changing your approach in any way?
No, I think one of the strong skills that I have is establishing systems, and I think that's one skill set that I truly bring to the AUSL. I think just in terms of my experience as well, dealing with players, dealing with coaches and general managers, and really getting into some areas that I haven't necessarily been exposed to. But I feel like our time is now. And that all of the indicators are just so great for softball.
So what I find really interesting, and the reason we did that long setup, is that the lawyers decided that baseball and softball are equivalent for Title IX purposes. But put that over here. They're really different games in the sense that obviously one's underhanded, the bases are shorter, there's no mound, the fence is tighter. It's faster in many ways, softball is.
It is, it really is. And so as we've seen, decades past now, the athletes are getting, so much stronger. The technology is helping. And so the speed of the game, I think, is really one of the biggest differences between softball and baseball. And it's really fun to watch. It's fast paced. There's lots of action. One of the biggest differences, the pitchers throw underhanded, but when you think about the velocity that they are able to create, we just had the fastest pitch recorded in history at 79.2 miles per hour.
Velocity.
At 43 feet versus 60 feet for the baseball side, which probably translates to about 108 to 110.
Wow.
Yes.
If it had been
yes,
baseball.
And so you're talking about a much faster reaction time for the women than what the men are doing.
It is really more exciting. I'll be honest. Like back in the day when I was a kid, there'd be like a rain delay in a baseball game we're watching, and then ESPN would put on like a softball game from some other market, and you'd be like, Now it's like, I'll be down in a bit. You just watch the whole thing to the end.
That's amazing. We're so excited for the league and that you're running it. You played softball in college, the University of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. Long time ago.
No, but I'm sure it feels exciting to get back in there.
It is. I mean, for me, this is somewhat of a homecoming.
Exactly.
You know, I grew up playing softball, played in college. My 4 sisters played.
Really?
3 of us played collegiately, so big softball family. And then one of the other items that I worked on when I was at Major League Baseball, I led the softball division. And so it was there we got a seat on the board of USA Softball and so other initiatives.
So exciting. Kim, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much
Congrats.
for
Baseball and softball are lucky to have you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll be
Thank you.
watching.